Hey guys, it's your host Julian. This week I'm sitting down with King of the Hill director, Mr. Anthony Lioi. We chat about what the early days of King of the Hill look like, how he composes a scene while directing, some cool prank stories are shared, and he also is talking about his time on American Dad, Big Mouth, and Shark. Now, before we go into this episode, there's a little housekeeping we gotta do. If you haven't yet, you should check us out on Patreon. We're offering 3 tiers with a lot of fun perks. Some of those perks included in those 3 tiers are a special shout out to the patrons, question priority, early and ad-free access to the audio and video chats, voting on upcoming retrospectives, and so much more. If you're listening to this podcast and you think we've earned it, drop us a 5-star rating on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Thanks so much. Now, without further ado, let's get on to my chat with the great Anthony Lioi. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What's My Head podcast. Today I'm joined by Anthony. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. This is going to be great.
Anytime, man. If there's anything that I love talking King of the Hill. So like we've done with all of our other guests, I figure the best thing to do, or the first step we should do, is let's take a trip back in that metaphorical DeLorean, man, that time machine. What was that first day walking into Film Roman for King of the Hill like? You remember that day?
Barely. 1997. It was the beginning of 1997. I remember there was only like 2 other people there, and just like I had just moved to LA, by the way. Like I came from New York. I was working at MTV prior to that, in 95, 96, working on Daria. I think at the time The Head was a show doing storyboard revisions, right? And I was just like, Daria kind of depressed me, even though everyone loves that show. Like, I was having a hard time on season 1. I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. California is where they're making all the shows. So, visited LA, visited San Francisco, and where am I gonna go? Am I gonna go here or there? San Francisco in August was too fucking cold, and without a car, my ass was killing me, like walking. Well, that's funny. But from walking up and down the hills.
Yeah.
And so I chose LA. But what I'm getting at is they hired me because, like, I think they were gearing up for season 2 of King of the Hill. They saw on my resume, oh, MTV, that means Beavis and Butthead. That means Mike Judge, he's hired. And they just hooked me and got, landed in LA and immediately started on this show. Didn't know anybody, didn't know where I was, didn't know the town at all, but made some great friends. So on my first day, I just like poked my head up, hi. I'm like in my mid-20s, dumb kid who thought they knew everything. And I look over a cubicle wall, and I was like, hi, I'm Anthony. And I meet 2 guys that were background designers, Joseph Holt, who went on to go to be art director for those Disney Mickey shorts, the new Mickey shorts stuff. Anyway, we don't need to talk about him. but like the people that I met, we're lifelong friends. Like, these are people that I guess when you're in the trenches together, you just bond, and when you're a dumb mid-20-year-old, it's easy, and everyone's the same age, you just bond. But like the first day, it was just like exciting. I mean, it's like I've always wanted to make cartoons, and I'll tell you this story. It was Empire Strikes Back that got me into animation. My dad took us to go see Empire Strikes Back in the movie theater. And when I learned that the Tauntaun was a stop motion and the AT-ATs and stuff, I was like, that's what I want to do. I'm like 10 years old. I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. So the fact that, like, in New York, I was doing like storyboard revisions, like I said, on Daria and a couple shows here and there, or commercials. But like moving to California to get like my first real primetime gig on King of the Hill was a dream come true. It was just... like, I learned so much on that show. But what to do, what not to do, mostly, you know.
Those are always fun stories, man. It's so I've never been the biggest Star Wars fan. I like them because my oldest son likes them, But I really feel I'll be 34 in a couple months, so it's not like my generation missed it because there's so many kids my age that grew up on those, just like you. Their dad took them to go see it. But it was just me. It was just like when I was like in the heyday of my movie watching, like a lot of the sensibilities that I have for movies, TV shows, cartoon shit like that, all started with my grandpa. I saw Goodfellas, like the first 2 minutes of Goodfellas, I saw, Ray Liotta giving that whole monologue, and then my grandpa would cut it off right there. Way too young, 7, 8 years old, I saw that, and then it
So
kind
you
of
grew up to be a
devolved.
gangster? Is that what you're saying?
So it's funny. I always wanted to be in the mafia. I've told this story a few times. So, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. So I always wanted to be in the mafia because my idea and my knowledge of the mafia was that first 2 minutes of Goodfellas. Ray Liotta talking about they always had the dress best clothes, or they were always dressed the best in clothes. Nobody messed with them. They ate great food. They were playing cards. They were playing parking cars at midnight, 1 o'clock, and nobody said anything. So I assumed that's what the mafia meant when I'm really young. And like I said, right after that monologue with Ray Liotta, my grandpa would turn the channel. I never knew what came next. So I've had this fascination with the mafia ever since I was very little. And then I took 4 years of Italian in high school just so I could watch The Godfather without subtitles, right? That was my only goal. And then I get to go to Italy like we had talked. I get to go to Italy when I'm 17. I think I was a junior in high school, I believe. If you did 4 years, 3 years of language in high school, you could, sign up to go on this trip. You'd have to pay for it, but you could go to the trip. You qualified for it. So I go over there, see all this shit. And then it wasn't until I was about 12 until I knew what the mafia really was. We go to a Barnes and Nobles or a Books A Million. John Gotti had just released his autobiography. I think he had either just passed away or just went to prison. I can't remember which one it was. But he had his new book out. And I remember my mom saying, hey, you can get any book you want. I was with my younger brother and younger sister. So I knew this book was not my age my age range. So I slid the book underneath my younger brother and my younger sister's book. And then my mom wasn't paying attention. She's like, oh my God, my boy's going to read. He's going to make something of himself, right? So she buys this book, and then I'm in the back of the truck, and then I'm flipping through it, and I go, Mom, what's a Colombian necktie? And she does the whole fucking swerve jerky thing. She's like, what the fuck are you talking about? So I was like, well, it's in this book. What does this mean? And then she was like, what book? And then she snatches. She's like, why the fuck did you get this book? I was like, well, you paid for it. You said I could have whatever book I want. This is the book I wanted. I never got to finish that book. I never read that book because I never got it back. But that completely killed my fascination for the mafia. I still find it a very fascinating topic. However, I don't want to be in the mafia anymore because it's terrifying.
Yeah, murder.
Yeah, drugs.
Colombian
it's just crazy.
neckties. Now you know what it means. Right?
I do. It took me a little while to figure it out, but So
Honey
getting
bear,
back, getting back to
barking out the window. Honey bear, come on.
Man, dogs and cats, I had to put mine out. I had to put mine outside because she likes to come and whenever I'm on the thing, like sit in my lap. And then she's 70 pounds. I was like, you're too fucking big for this, and it's too hot for this shit. But getting back to you and King of the Hill, man. So like I said, I enjoy those first day stories because it's generally whenever we go someplace, it's always burnt like right here in our mind, whether it's the smells, what was going on, what happened, what you were wearing, shit like that. So those are always fascinating times and stories. Do you remember as far as the first episode you got to work on? I know that's a long time ago and probably hard to remember. But you remember the first episode you got to work on?
Oh, the first one I got to work on, yeah, because I was hired to do layouts, and I don't remember the first episode I got to touch. I don't remember. It was sometime in season 2, early season 2. So yeah, we did layout. Do we need to explain the process?
Oh, no, you're perfectly fine. No, they're pretty well versed.
So yeah, I mean, hired to do character layout. So I wasn't allowed to touch the backgrounds, and I remember like spending. Kick through my work really fast. I'm waiting to talk to the director. So I was like, all right, I'll just sketch in a background while I'm waiting. And, oh man, I don't know if I should tell this story or not.
Go for it. We can cut it out if you don't want it out there after.
Well, it's just like, This is an example of what not to do. I learned early on how not to behave as a director, because like I went in there. It's like my first meeting with the director, and like he's like, "You're only supposed to be the character artist." I was like, "Yeah, but I was sitting around waiting with my fucking thumb up my ass, you know." So I just drew a fence and a tree behind it. No big fucking deal. It's on a separate piece of paper. This is all, you know, my what's going on in my 25-year-old head. So this director, man, he picks up an eraser and starts like going erasing the tree that I drew on a separate piece of paper while staring at me, because I'm only supposed to do the characters, you know. And I was just like, it's a separate piece of paper, motherfucker. Like he was just making an example by erasing it in front of me. And I was just like, wow, you're an asshole. So I learned early on how not to behave to and that was like my first few days there, man. Like literally my first scene. That's my fucking memory of this fucking dude being an asshole to me.
That's fantastic. Now,
1997.
It's still there, man. It's all right there.
Yeah, and here's my broken heart. But you were talking about like things to remember about the studio, smells, and the sights. So we shared our like film room at the time. Like there was Simpsons below us, and there was other shows going on. Like I remember Garfield at one point being there, and whatever. I don't know. Has anyone told you about the Mad Crapper?
No.
Or the bird nester?
No, please tell us both.
Yeah. So these are these stories. They might have been the same person, but like somebody would make a bird nest on the toilet out of each individual square of toilet paper. And they must have taken a long time because it was like delicately placed and thick. It was like a thick, but they wouldn't fucking flush, and they would just leave it there for the next person to find. Like look at my look at my art that I created.
Look at my sandcastle.
And then that evolved to them fucking smearing their shit on the wall.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I remember going in there. This is early on too, and it's like, oh, somebody busted up the toilet roll, and I kicked the piece of plastic, you know, the little rod that holds the toilet paper in place. That whole thing was busted up. So I kicked a little piece of the plastic, and I was like, all right, let me kick this other piece of plastic out of the way. Smear! My foot just smeared human feces on the floor in the bathroom. So early days of King of the Hill, we worked with fucking animals. I don't know who that was. A bunch of pirates. Yeah, maybe it was Paul Scarlatta. Let's just say it was Paul Scarlatta.
God damn it, Paul. Be better. Do better, Paul. No,
but that was true. This is all fucking true stories. Early days of Film Roman.
These are things you won't get on the direct-to-DVD, the DVD cuts, ladies and gentlemen, the behind the scenes. You won't hear about the Phantom Shitter or the Bird Nester, man. So when I want to take a step back and go back to that director that erased that. Now, I've been extremely fascinated. I believe this came up, it either came up with Whitney or it came up with Paul, backgrounds. So the folks know that listen to my show, I am absolutely just enamored by folks that do backgrounds, because I think there's something so interesting about world building. You know, the characters are really cool, man, but it's just like the setting that like I said, I don't know why that I like backgrounds more than something else. I guess it's just you like what you like. But the backgrounds in particular on King of the Hill are some of the most beautiful backgrounds. Now, one of the episodes we will talk about is Wings of the Dope. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, we talked about that one with Paul, but as when Buckley passed, or after Buckley passed away, Luann gets visited by Buckley's angel. Some of the backgrounds in this episode in particular, some of the most beautiful design or beautiful backgrounds I've seen in anything, right? That I love that twilight hour or whatever that's considered, where it's like the purple, the red, the orange, and then the stars and all that other shit. I think there's something so magical about a sky view. Like, sound like Bob Ross, right? You know, it's just something beautiful and magical about those colors. And did you get to do much backgrounds, or did you go from character layout strictly to directing, or how does that work out for you?
Oh yeah, so yeah, from layout, then I moved into storyboards, yeah, the first show that I storyboarded on was Halloween.
That's a great one.
Yeah, John Rice directing. Mike DiMartino was the AD. Now, Mike DiMartino, coincidentally, I met at MTV. He was working on
Mhm.
The Head. So I was like, I made the decision to move west. I was like, oh, Mike DiMartino's in town. Oh shit, he's on King of the Hill. Oh my god, he's the AD of this episode. Like, so it was great to reunite with him. Uh, so I did storyboards with them, and then right after that episode, the Cindy Tang needed one of the directors needed an AD. She
Mhm.
was really good friends with John Rice, directing Halloween, and he immediately put my name in the hat to be her AD. So I quickly became like from layout artist to storyboard, and then AD. All in the same season. And that was like season 2. So I stayed with Cindy for the end of season 2, season 3, and then by season 4, I was directing my own shows.
What's that jump like to you? Obviously, because I haven't asked this question in quite some time to a few, excuse me, into a few folks. But I like I said, that those first day questions are always fascinating. But the other one that I always find fascinating is what is it like seeing your name in the credits for the first time? I got to imagine you remember. Did you guys have watch parties? I know The Simpsons would do watch parties, in the
Yeah,
earlier seasons. But did you guys do that with King of the Hill?
yeah, I think so. I mean, like with friends and family and stuff, but like,
Hmm.
hey mom, watch the show. I'm in the credits. You know,
Yeah.
all mom does is watch the credits. She doesn't give a shit. She doesn't watch any of the shows I make. I've been working consistently, you know, since '97. Very,
Hmm.
very grateful. Very, very thankful for a really nice, solid career. But seeing my name up there was cool. Certainly when I was young. One of the things that I love about animation is the anonymity. We get to
Hmm.
make something that millions of people get to see, and I didn't do it to be famous. There's a lot of people who want everyone to know who they are. They want to be famous. I prefer the anonymity. I
Yeah.
love the aspect of the magic behind making something come to life, for one thing.
Hmm.
Um, and then we're the wizards behind the curtain,
Yeah.
and no one has to know who we are. So with that said, I think one of my episodes, I changed my name to A. Lioi. Instead
Hmm.
of Anthony Lioi, I was just like, this show is going to be directed by A. Lioi, and I tried to have this whole persona, like one word thing, but that came from A. Lioi is another name I go by. Uh, People who know me for a long, long time still call me A. Lioi, all from my dairy barn days in Long Island, New York. I worked at Dairy Barn, literally shaped like a red barn with a silo, and it was just 2 driveways. Cars would just pull up, and that's where you get your cigarettes and your milk and your potato chips and your beer. So whatever. I'm telling this long, stupid story.
Oh no,
Just
it's fine. I like it.
the schedule. When we had to work my part-time job in high school,
Hmm.
it would just be first initial, last name. So that's where I got the name A. Lioi, because it's just this unique last name,
Yeah.
A. Lioi, and so that became my name. Like, there's just people on the street, friends of mine, would go over like, hey, A. Lioi, so that has stuck with me. So A. Lioi got to direct a couple of King of the Hill episodes. And
What?
yeah,
What?
A. Lioi got nominated. It was Chasing Bobby. That's what it was.
Chasing
Stop
Bobby.
it. Hey, hey,
That's
hey.
what it was.
She's such a maniac. Hold on, let me get her out of the room.
I know.
Okay, no. Out. No. I was about to look. Oh, you fuck. I don't even know. Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. We'll cut that. We'll cut that part out. Um, and we'll actually I'll cut this part out too because I meant to ask you this before we recorded. Um, I know IMDb is not always right, but it did say that you had directed 2 episodes, I think, of Avatar.
Yes, yeah, the Mike DiMartino show.
Yep.
That's why I dropped his name.
What season did you direct on?
Season 1.
Oh, great, because that's the only season I've seen so far. It was a show that I did not see as a kid. It was like right around the high school time, and everybody just kept hyping it up. Like I said, I'll cut this part out. Um, Everybody kept hyping it up, and I was more of a Cartoon Network kid than a Nickelodeon kid. Loved Hey Arnold. That was the only thing that made me tune into Nickelodeon on a regular basis, and that eventually evolved into a whole bunch of other shows. But me and two of my podcasting friends just did an episode where we did the season 1 review. Blown the fuck away. One, I'm glad I watched this show as an adult because there was so much shit that, in my opinion, if I would have watched it as a kid, let me change this color back because this color's fucking with me. As if I would have watched it as a kid, would have just completely went over my head. And the fact that I've got, adult eyes now, and the fact that I've got dad eyes now, where I've got kids, I can see shit, I can pull from. Blown the fuck away, Anthony. It's just it was. I'm so excited to watch season 2 and season 3. Do you remember what 2 episodes you directed on?
Omashu, where we met Boomy. So it was the first time we went to an earthbending kingdom.
Yeah, that crazy fucker.
Shoot, I don't remember the other episode after that. But yeah, I mean, like I was gonna roll into Avatar because that's why I mentioned Mike DiMartino, why I ended my term on King of the Hill was to go make art on Avatar, and then the reason why, and then I left Avatar because I left King of the Hill. Fox was like, oh, now we could offer him other things because I was pretty much their favorite director for a long time. Sorry, guys. But because I left to go do Avatar, I got a call saying like, hey, we need a supervising director for American Dad.
Yeah.
And I turned them down. I turned American Dad down to go make Avatar.
That's so fucking dope, man. Like I said, I'm gonna cut all this part out, but we'll bring back up Avatar, and we'll do a little Avatar talk as well because, like I said, it's one of those shows that I'm so upset that I did not watch and I just did not jump on that train, but I'm so happy that I waited. So it's one of those double-edged swords, But
you did catch the live action Netflix show. They got a live action Netflix show coming.
I saw that Mike, and then I always mispronounce his name.
Brian Konietzko.
Brian Konietzko. Okay, so I thought it was Konietzko. I've pronounced. I always try to make sure I pronounce. That's why, guys, ask you guys your last names because everybody calls me Justin for some reason. My name's not Justin. It's Julian, but I get called Justin all the time. So I always make sure I hit everybody's name right. But it's the episode that I thought is the season finale. So it's where they go at the end, and then it's when the Fire Nation comes and kills the yin and the yang, the koi fish, and that whole, like, I got goosebumps now, dude. That whole fucking sequence where the color is literally drained out, and the only color you see is from fucking Uncle Iroh, and it's the fact that the guy that voiced him, Mako, also voiced Aku from Samurai Jack, which is one of my all-time favorites. Like that show on Cartoon Network, in my opinion, it's that and regular show as far as greatest shows Cartoon Network has ever produced. Those two in particular, and for two different reasons. Mike and Brian. It's such a fucking amazing show. Like I said, I can't wait to dig into season 2 and season 3. But all right, do you know where we were at as far as I think we were talking we were talking Chase and Bobby. You had just mentioned the Emmy. The Emmy.
Yeah. So Chasing Bobby, season 5. Sorry, I'm looking up my name on IMDb so I can remember what shows I worked on. Chasing Bobby, so A. Lioi directed Chasing Bobby. My other.
What's the difference between A. Lioi and Anthony Lioi? Do you guys have any different opinions? Do you guys carry the same?
We fight all the time.
All the time, right?
Yeah. I fucking hate that guy. I'm seeing a therapist now because of that guy.
Because of that dickhead, man. God damn. But Chasing Bobby.
But I want to tell the story where that episode got nominated for an Emmy. We didn't win, but I think we got
Bullshit.
nominated because so this is the second season that I was directing. I think yeah, season 5. So I had sculpted my hand, I think,
Mhm.
like this, like
Mhm.
just making an X. So because like I think we were doing episode 10 or something. It was something like that. So uh I had one of those like kits with a that would make a plaster hand, you know, like
Yeah.
like make an alginate mold and fill it with plaster. And I put that on a rod. So like when I would again, I'm a late 20s fucking piece of shit. I would walk around the studio with this scepter
Mhm.
for because we were doing show 10. You know, and
Yeah.
that's how I would walk around to the crew with this giant scepter for the show, the episode. But what I'm getting at is like I laid it down on a coffee table, conference table, I should say, and had everyone who was working on that episode lay a hand on it, and I had everybody visualize white energy coming out of their bodies through their hands into the scepter, and I was like, this will power us to make the best King of the Hill episode ever, and that episode got nominated. So it's all because of the group's power into our scepter. That's what I'm saying.
That's so fucking dope. Do you still have that scepter? Do you have that power scepter still?
No, I smashed it.
Oh, god damn it. Did you smash it before the Emmys were announced, or was it after? Okay.
Yeah, after
I
we
was about to
lost.
say it might have been a bad luck if you did it before.
But I mean, man, I'm lucky enough. I got to go to the Emmys a bunch of times. I mean, I was Cindy Tang's AD on the episode that did win. That was the episode with Sarah Michelle Gellar, who came and she was Bobby's girlfriend.
Ah,
You know, because
yes.
they kissed on the couch in the alley or something. Um, so yeah, going to the Emmys, like I don't know what I'm stupid 20-year-old kid, and like so I go and rent an ill-fitting tux that's like way too big, you know, drive my filthy Ford Escort to to the Emmys. I'm just like, what the wow, I'm at an Emmys and this is a big giant party. Not now, man, when I go to the Emmys, it's just like whatever.
Yeah.
It's just a fucking Emmys. I'll tell you the best. I mean, pre-pandemic, I got to go to the Emmys. The last time we got to go was for a Big Mouth episode. I'm producing Big Mouth these days, and I had the best doubleheader of the night because went to the Emmys, brought my now wife for her first time to the Emmys. We got to see the ceremony. There's a big, huge, elaborate party
Mhm.
for adults. You know, beautiful. And I was like, all right, I gotta fucking go. And we got changed in the car and headed to an Iron Maiden concert that was like 10 minutes down this road. It was the best fucking night of my life because I was like, had a great time at this Emmys party, and then just
Mhm.
like, all right, drink, drink, drink. Head on over to the floor of this Iron Maiden was playing. There's a huge arena, and oh man, it's just to arrive and just like, oh, fucking Maiden. Best night of my life. It was so much fun.
Oh, that's so fucking dope. I love hearing stories like this, because uh if there's one thing I've noticed about you, because you had dropped the anonymity thing earlier,
Mm,
a lot of you guys and gals in animation, one, don't like talking about yourself because one, is a collaborative thing, and two,
true that.
people have a very hard time talking about themselves. Some people don't. Like I've had some people on where you just can't get a word in edgewise, and which is perfectly fine because I love when I can just sit back and just fucking relax and I'm told stories. So that's not a slight on anybody. I always tell everybody, you come on here and you get to be as narcissistic as you want. Talk about yourself ad
Mhm.
nauseum because I like these stories. The fans like hearing these stories because a lot of this stuff, like I said, with the shit story you told earlier, you never see that on the behind the scenes documentary.
Uh-huh.
I've had to hear, or not had to hear, excuse me. I've heard so many shit stories. It's something about animation. Here's this one that I really love. Did you ever get to work with Tuck Tucker, storyboard artist?
No, no, I've not. I
Okay.
think I heard one of your podcasts talking about him though.
Yeah, so did you hear the shit sandwich with Tuck Tucker?
I don't think so. Maybe.
So it was when I had Craig Bartlett, the creator of Hey Arnold, on my podcast, and whenever somebody that's no longer here, that's passed away, I always like bringing them up because it gets to like these guys and gals that are no longer here, they'll forever be immortalized with the work they did because King of the Hill's never going anywhere. Hey Arnold is never going anywhere. But there's so many fans that might not know the names that are no longer here. And like I said,
True.
I like to bring them up so their memories stay with ever. These videos will never come down, and I want the folks to know these stories. And so he was a prankster is what everybody tells me. He loved April Fool's Day was like his Super Bowl. And
Mhm.
over at Nickelodeon, excuse me, over at Nickelodeon, they had a communal refrigerator, and he kept putting a sandwich in there, and his sandwich kept getting stolen, right? So there was this one time he put "Do not touch," and Craig had said he's like, I don't know if his dog's name. He had this hunting dog, and his dog's name was, I think he said, it's Bruno. So he said he didn't know if it was a Bruno shit or if it was a human shit. But Tuck went and took two pieces of bread, put it,
Oh.
around this turd, wrapped it up like he usually does, says do not eat, tuck tuckers or whatever it was, and his sandwich came up missing right after that. Needless to say, after the shit sandwich, his sandwich never went missing again. So, like I said, I've heard there's something with animation and turds that just
Holy
consistently comes up, and like I said, I never get tired of shit stories.
man, that's a good one.
Yeah, I got a couple more, but I'll have to tell you them off air because I've had to cut a few of them out. But there was one thing because I'd written it down. And I wanted to circle back to because we fans definitely do look at Daria in a light
Mm.
that is interesting. It's a fun show. You said you were extremely depressed doing this one because obviously it's during that grunge era, right? It's that
Oh
that
yeah.
it's that dramatic teenage angst. It's Nirvana in animated form, right? So everybody goes through these feelings, these stages of their lives when they're growing up. Not to the extent of some of the scenes in Daria would, but I remember seeing this show because I have an older sister, so a lot of the Beavis and Buttheads I got to see because of my sister. Daria I got to see because of my sister because she was watching it. What was obviously the show's depressing, but what was it depressing like for you, or what was the depression
Oh well.
from working on the show?
Well, it was another thing that I learned not to do, what not to do.
Hmm.
You don't put someone in a box. You don't pigeonhole somebody. Is that the term? You don't.
Yeah, you don't put baby in the corner.
I was a storyboard revisionist on that show, so and that's all I was seen to do, and then like during times off or hiatus of that show, um I would go animate commercials or go work on another show, and it's like I came back to Daria and they're like, oh, storyboard revisions is your baby. I was like, no, 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 I want to do other things. And you know so that's why I was just like, well, that, and also my job was as a storyboard as a storyboard revisionist, you're meant to just plus things and
Yeah.
rewrites and take care of redos or whatever. My job on that show was redoing this one guy's board and like entirely. So because he was an old guy, an old timer, like drawing stuff like um, the Peanuts. Like he would
Hmm.
literally draw like a circle with a nub at the top for their nose.
Hmm.
You know how the Peanuts laugh?
Yeah.
They just, you don't see their eyes. It's just a circle with a big giant, and it's like that's off model. That's not this show. That's not the show we're making. So the director would be like, "Can you just make this work?" So basically, my job was just redoing this person's work, and that just pissed me off
That's
because
depressing.
I was just like, "What the fuck? He's getting paid, and
Hmm.
I'm not getting paid as much as he, but I have to redo. Like none of that guy's work will ever be seen by anyone else down the pipeline."
Hmm.
So I was just like, "Fuck this." Moving west.
All right, so we're moving west and on to better things. Let's talk Chase and Bobby because this is one of the ones that has not come up yet, and it's a fascinating one because so many times throughout this show. So this show pops up for me two or three times throughout my life. This is the first adult animated show that I get hooked on. I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons because my mom just did not like Bart Simpson. Like most
Hmm.
parents, moms just did not like Bart Simpson. The other one was the Rugrats. She did not like Angelica Pickles. So excuse me. The Simpsons is one that I never really got to watch, but King of the Hill was. There was just something that hooked me right away. The characters, I think, I've always said that I think it's because the reason I love the show so much is because not only the story, The art was phenomenal. The soul that you guys injected into these characters and made them feel like they could be real. I think that was what drew me in so much, no pun intended, was just the fact that if this was real light, like these characters could be real in some universe. These guys could be in, it could be the live action version. Um, but Chasing Bobby, it's one of those shows that when I saw this as a kid, it hit me, but it didn't hit me until I was deployed. When I got a little bit older, like I said, this one hit me two different ways at two different times in my life. Didn't have a dad growing up, right? And then I always wanted one. And then, seeing Hank and the way Bobby was, I could tell there was some strife, right? He didn't understand his son didn't understand him. They were trying to commingle. They felt more like roommates at times, like some people do than they did father and son. And I can see that a lot as my son gets older. He's starting to hit that teenage years, so he doesn't want dad around type of thing. He wants to do his own way. He thinks he knows more.
Yeah.
That's not so much Bobby and Hank's relationship, but I can draw the correlations from that.
Yeah. Your son keeps
And
embarrassing you. Is that it?
no, I mean,
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
sometimes. Yeah, sometimes he does. No, but it's just like, we're from two different worlds essentially,
Yeah.
and I see
Yeah.
that with Hank and Bobby too, right? Now, I see this one I watched the entire series again during COVID, but before COVID, when I was deployed, I saw this when I was deployed. Fuck me, man. Before COVID, when I was on deployment, I took this set with me. I had all the episodes of King of the Hill, and I see this episode while I'm on my last deployment, and I'm thinking, as a dad, I'm watching this for the first time since I watched this as a teenager. Hit me completely differently, man.
Sure. Yeah.
Seeing the love that Hank has that he's trying to instill in Bobby, but he has it for his truck because it's easier for him for an inanimate object because of where he came from and how he got raised. You see his dad, Cotton, he's a World War II vet. So you guys had these real life experiences and these fictitious characters where you could be like, well, that generation didn't really tell their kids they loved them, especially the male figures. And then you've got the next generation, that's the Vietnam kids, that still really didn't tell their kids they loved them. And then you get bleed into the 80s, the Cold War, Desert Storm, and shit like that, where you're starting to see some things come around, like you see Family Matters, you see fucking Home Improvement, where you can see the dads really being more of a loving character. And then you get to King of the Hill, right? Where it's kind of like a step back, but like I said, it's in that era, it's in that generation of those fathers that are evolving to, eventually tell their kids they love them. But like I said, I see this as an adult, and I'm like, holy fuck, this show in particular, this episode in particular, in my opinion, does not get brought up enough. It doesn't get brought up enough as top 10 episodes. It does not get brought up enough as one of those. I mean, you guys were nominated for a fucking Emmy on this one. I shouldn't have to say it's a top 10, top 5, but I feel like I have to. This one does not get brought up enough, man. So I would love to know from nuts to bolts, start to finish, man. How does this one come to you? Is it just one of those scripts that's passed out when you guys get the episode breakdown? Where are you at when
Yeah.
Chasing Bobby falls into your lap, man?
Damn. All right.
There's some heavy there's some heavy theology here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like everything you said there, man, I could relate to as far as like the dad who can't communicate, So I mean, I connect like you to that moment in that story, and the inability. I mean, what I love now with 21st century, I love seeing how boys, new fathers, they are actually connecting with their children
Full
for the most
circle.
part. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so where I was in my life, man, it was easy to pull from, all that stuff. It's so funny. It's like I only saw that episode again recently. I haven't seen it since we made it in,
Jesus.
I guess we did 98, 99 or something back then. But I mean, I get stuck on the little nuances of the acting of the characters. Like I remember in that episode, there's the car salesman because he has to buy a new truck after he gets hit by the train. Now, you just said this beautiful thing about relationships and stuff, and I'm gonna whittle it down to like, I'm really proud of when the salesman gets up on his toes because he's rocking his feet. No, but that's breathing the life into the scene.
Absolutely.
Like, the character was just standing there, and I was like, he needs to do something here. So I was like, oh, he's a used car salesman. Give him this rocking business here, and
Yeah.
so So
Well, how
but
do you dictate a shot though? Like when you're
ah,
obviously as a storyboard artist, it's going to be different than an
mhm.
AD and a director. What are you looking for as far as shots go? When you guys get the script and you guys know what the story is going to be, is there specific scenes that you're pulling from, maybe like inspiration from a movie, a TV show? Like I would
Certainly.
love a downward shot of this, or how does that
Oh,
process work for
oh,
you?
certainly, man. Yeah, like I do reference movies a lot, and I'm
Mhm.
50 now, and I'm mentioning to the 20-year-olds that I'm working with now, and I'm like, yeah, like in the 1979, the Muppet movie when they did this shot,
Oh,
and I'm
great
talking to
movie.
these kids who are like, I've never
What's a
seen that
Muppet?
movie. Yeah, yeah. And I'm like, what? You got to know
Bunch
your
of
basics,
assholes.
man. You got to know it. Uh, but like, for example, somebody pitched a sequence to me. So I mean, your question is a deep question. How do you storyboard? How do you tell a story? How do you use the camera to
Hmm.
enhance emotion and or comedy? Not a lot of people know how to stage for comedy either. So I point to um comedies. Even Ant-Man. I referenced the first Ant-Man recently because it's timing. It's like faster is funnier unless it's really, 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 really slow.
Hmm.
If, in I think it was Ant-Man 2 when yes, because Paul Rudd, he's at home arrest. Do you watch those
Yes.
movies? Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so he's sliding down the cardboard
Hmm.
slide and he busts through with his daughter, but his leg busts through the fence. But the his friend who is poking his head out the window is saying like, I'm really nervous about this account or this security thing. He's like, don't worry, buddy, you got it, you got it, you got it. He's like, you're the man. And shit, I forget the actor's name, but but the timing of the shot where he's like, I'm the man, I'm the man, and he backs away into the room really slow. See, you laugh.
Yeah.
It's inherently funny. Um, there was a storyboard artist on King of the Hill named Oreste Canestrelli. He's an old friend of mine.
Hmm.
Literally grew up in the circus.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
yeah, like he was an acrobat. His whole family were clowns and acrobats, and I learned as at 20 years old when I met him, I learned comedy. He hates when I say this, but I learned a lot about comedy from him because we talked about vaudeville. We talked about old school stuff. And
Hmm.
when you fall, you have to get the feet up into the
Yeah.
frame. You send the shoe going like like
Hmm.
there are basics for comedy, like things that rise up into frame,
Hmm.
make people laugh. Anyway, there's you could point to all kinds of examples and references. And how do you stage stuff? Like somebody pitched a sequence to me where a father was locked out of his daughter's apartment, and she was on second floor, third floor, looking out the window, and the thumbnails that were pitched to me were just horizon straight across and the camera's like looking right at him. Cut to
Hmm.
her, she's in the window and right there, and I was like, what? Like this seems a no-brainer, but like, why aren't we looking up at her? Where's the shot from inside her window looking down at dad on the street, going, let me in? You're like, why do I gotta why do I gotta pull this out of you? So, so that's the basics of stuff. But then like I have this whole philosophy, which I learned in the trenches of King of the Hill where I cut my teeth.
Hmm.
Things were like direction of attention is some of the stuff that I bring up to my crews now, where that'll help with screen direction. In animation, you have to work with the limitations of the art form versus live action. In live action, you could have somebody's fuzzy shoulder way in the foreground, and the audience is going to know what that is because
Hmm.
they know what the tactile feeling of their shirt or whatever sweater they're wearing. It's certainly if it's fuzzy, the
Hmm.
audience could just see like a sliver of that and understand what that is. In animation, you can't get away with just like a sliver of a sleeve because it's just this flat color, unless you
Hmm.
really go in there and do all these gradients over or whatever. But what I'm getting at is you have to understand the limitations of the medium and the clarity you want to get to the audience, right? So it's all about the silhouette, right? in all the animation books, everyone's going to talk about the silhouette. So all I'm getting at is, like, if you're talking to somebody over here, and like here, I'm talking to this pillow, and another person walks in, you shouldn't have, and I get this all the time, you shouldn't have the other person walk in behind the pillow. So if I'm talking to, hey, pillow, you piece of shit, and oh, hey, your friend over here is another piece of shit. So that's not a clear silhouette change. But if the second piece of shit comes in on the other side, and you're like, hey, I don't like you, and then changing my silhouette to address this person coming in on this side, way stronger, and it'll read in animation. By changing the silhouette. So I often have that written on giant signs, and I put that over some storyboard artists' areas, and I'm like, change the silhouette, and I put musical notes around it. It's like, these are the things you have to remember. So I'm drilling that drill into people's heads.
So you had brought up a scene from the Muppets, whether it was anecdotally or something that you wanted to get done. Is there any movie that obviously you said, I think it was Empire Strikes Back, was such a huge part or such a huge moment of your life that really made you do what you want to do. Is there any movie out there that you would love to take inspiration from and put into a show that you have not done yet? And is that answer Back to the Future? No. Because that's one of my favorite movies.
I've referenced Back to the Future many times. I mean, I've referenced all my favorite movies. There's nothing that I haven't pointed to. I mean, Rock and Rule was Nelvana's first feature that I saw that on HBO every day. I would watch that. I recorded it off of HBO and I watched it every day. Rock and Rule, heavy metal back in the day, Akira, of course. But as far as other movies that I reference Conan the Barbarian a lot. Yeah. When talking about effects, like I often go to the "Do you really want to live forever?" shot. Like when he gets rescued and he like, was the what? Who saved me? And it's like his dead Valkyrie wife standing there. Do you want to live forever? And he looks away, looks back, she's gone. Animal Olympics. There was did you ever hear of Animal Olympics?
I don't think so. Let me write this one down.
Animal Olympics is mid 80s or so. I mean, like Gilda Radner, John Candy, Billy Crystal.
It's got a cast.
Huge cast. I forget the story behind why it failed. Like it was meant to be a feature, but and then something happened. I don't know the story, the history of it, but like it ended up not being successful in the theaters, if it even made in theaters. But regardless, I saw it on HBO, and it was broken up into 5 parts or something, and it was like spread out over TV. Maybe that's its fate. Maybe that's what it was. It was destined. They wanted it to be a feature, and it just ended up being on TV. Whatever. Little Anthony saw it on HBO and fucking loved it. I have cell setups in my office. Yeah, not here. From that movie, but that's something I reference a lot. Animal Olympics, beautiful feature quality animation, but there's these 70s effects and this surrealism. On Big Mouth we do a lot of musical numbers, so I pull up lots of different sequences from Animal Olympics to point out, like, look what they did here, neon colors against black or whatever effects, or I'll pull up a scene from Rock and Roll and just like build off of something. Be inspired, and build from there. Exactly. Dragon Slayer.
Oh, another great one.
I forget the dragon's name, but like with the go motion aspect of it, like that blew my mind. I guess that's more of an inspiration of like why we do what we do. I mean, I made my parents buy a VHS camera that could have the capability of shooting time lapse, or but basically I would make my toys, my GI Joes, like get up and murder each other, and I would, to put Metallica's "Creeping Death" behind it, and
what a fucking song. I was always a big fan of One. I mean, I know it's
Grammy nominated.
Yeah, it's everybody's favorite one, but that music video for One sits here and not in a good way. It's one of those things that sits rent free in my head,
Yeah.
but in the most terrifying way possible.
Well,
You know,
being war is the war angle.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just like I'm such a fucking fan, and I told who did I fucking tell this to? Shit, I can't remember who I told it to. It was one of you, one of the King of the Hill alums.
Was it Paul?
No, it wasn't
All right.
Paul. I want to say it was probably Bill Riling.
Okay.
Um, that my love and fascination for World War II started because of Cotton Hill. A lot of that, I had my great uncle. I think he was in Korea. I know for sure he was in Vietnam. So I don't know if he did. I don't think he did World War II because he was old, but he wasn't that old. But my fascination for World War II really started with Cotton Hill. And excuse me, fucking voice is screwing up this week. But it was, God damn it, getting all choked up here, man.
Uh,
Yeah, no, my fascination for World War II really started with Cotton Hill, and then it was school. You'd hear it in history class, and Jesus Christ, I don't know what's going on, man.
Want some water?
Probably dying here. I'm not crying at all. Might be dying. But I know my fascination with World War II really started there, and then it kind of just progressed as I got older. It went from Cotton to reading some books and then fucking joining the Navy, seeing Men of Honor. I wanted to be in the Navy because of Steven Seagal and Under Siege, and I wanted to be in fucking the Navy because of Cuba Gooding Jr. and Robert De Niro in Men of Honor, that Navy diver movie. Cuba Gooding Jr. plays the first black Master Chief Navy diver in history, so it was just a fascinating time. And then getting to see just that progression of stuff. So, you guys instilled this love of animation from this. I learned so much from King of the Hill. And then, like I said, that love for that, like I've just been on a fucking tear for every documentary for World War II. I'm reading a Winston Churchill book now. All of that, if you guys didn't spawn anything else, man, you spawned a fucking fascination of World War II. And getting back to that whole one thing with Metallica, that thing lives rent fucking free in my head. It terrifies the shit out of me because I never went to war. I was on a ship. I didn't see any wartime. I went to the desert. I went to some very shisty places, some very weird places. But for the most part, I was pretty safe and pretty, everything was pretty relaxed and calm. But it's just like that not the implementation, just watching that just kind of like warped my perception on like what reality was, but also what war was. And then you hear the stories, even though they're fictitious, from Cotton. You get to paint this picture, and then you start reading this shit. You're like, fuck, dude, you guys were putting in some real stories from this bastard Cotton Hill into the show that was, that played out in some of the history books that I've read. So, like I said, well done, both Metallica and King of the Hill with fucking war talk. You know what I mean? Throwing up the devil horns, man. I love it. So we haven't talked too much about Chase and Bobby yet because I kind of derailed us there with not only my Metallica talk and World War II talk, but kind of how you delineate between shot to shot and what you're looking for as far as script goes. But getting back to Chase and Bobby, man. Obviously this script it hits so many different levels. Whether it's emotional, mental, physical. Hank obviously loses his truck, this truck that he's been going since I think before Bobby,
Yep.
so it's his first love essentially that wasn't Peggy, that wasn't Bobby, that wasn't Ladybird. So what was it like, man? How many times do you get some shitty fan mail about killing Hank's truck? You killed Hank's first baby, dude. How does that come about?
I've moved so many times, no one could find me.
Nobody's gonna get you.
Yeah, keep dodging the hate.
Nah,
No,
man,
I remember.
what was working on this one like though?
I remember going to me and my AD went to the Ford dealership to look at trucks,
Mhm.
and so we could get the feel. I mean, drawing vehicles, man, suck. It's hard. But Robin Brickstock was my AD at the time, and he was solid. He drew all the train hitting the car stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were at a Ford dealership taking pictures, and around that time was like one of those TV shows where like the hidden camera catching how to catch a shady motherfucker.
Yeah.
It's like they were like, "What are you doing taking pictures?" They chased us out. We're like, "We're just taking pictures of trucks, research."
What a time before the internet, you know?
Yes, right. um, but yeah, man, it's just, then I remember, I think, oh no, I was gonna say Dave Filoni drew the poster, but no, he drew a poster for something else.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was never mind. Never mind.
Oh,
Yeah.
no worries.
Did anyone bring up Dave Filoni?
I want to
Star Wars Dave Filoni?
say yes. Possibly. I know I've heard the name before. I'm pretty sure we've talked about it. And the guy that I was referencing that I could not remember earlier was Alan Jacobson.
Oh,
It
Alan.
wasn't Bill as far as World War II. Yeah, we talked.
All
Alan
right.
and I talked
Alan
World War II.
Jacobson. Yes,
Yeah.
the shit plopper. What should we call him? You know, but practical jokes. I want to tell you a story. I used to hide underneath Paul Scarlatta's desk.
Yeah.
So yeah, he would disappear. That guy, you could never find him at his desk. No, but he disappeared for a while, and so I hid underneath his desk. And I remember he came back to work, and I waited like 10 minutes,
Hmm.
and then shook shook his desk from underneath like crazy, and he got up so fast, earthquake, earthquake. Man, I used to tie his shoelaces to his desk.
Oh, what a dick.
Yeah, I was a fucking punk 20, mid-20s doing this stupid shit. Like, more shit I can't do now that I'm 50 and in charge
I
of
mean,
people.
you
Can't do
you
that
can.
shit.
You just gotta be a little bit more incognito, if you know what I mean. My first command, I'm deployed. I'm like 19, 20 maybe. So this is the first time I've been away from the country for an extended period of time. The first time I've been away from my wife. We had just had our first kid. So I felt like I was on an island. I was very alone. Like I said, whenever I deployed, I would take the show with me. I would take this, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of the listeners probably don't know this, but I had a binder like this thick, just full of DVDs and movies and shit like that. And I had two of those with me, right, for all the TV shows, all the movies. And like I said, I always brought King of the Hill with me. And I can't remember how I got the idea to do it. I don't think it was King of the Hill because I don't think you guys ever used Velcro. But since we're talking about playing practical jokes on people, I had at the end of the year, I was a supply guy. So at the end of the fiscal year, you have to essentially run out whatever money you have to zero because if you don't, the next fiscal year when they cut new checks to your squadron, your division, your command, they cut it for less because you had money left over. So obviously, if you didn't spend the last 32,000, the next check you get is $32,000 less. So nobody wanted to make sure that happened. We always wanted the most money we could possibly get.
Mhm.
Taxes, right? Taxes, taxes, taxes. Fucking sucks that we had to pay for this shit, but it is what it is. It's common practice. So like I said, we'd run the books to zero. So yeah, at the end of the year, you have these list of people that you get your needs first, and then at the end of the year, you get your wants. So it was like, oh, we need new boots, we need new this, we need new that. So on want lists or need lists and shit like that, when we get to the wants, there was just a whole bunch of shit, and I was like, well, I'm gonna buy a pallet full of fucking Velcro because that'll blow $3,000 off of this budget. So I bought a pallet, not a pallet, but I bought quite a bit of fucking Velcro, $3,000 worth of Velcro. So we get this Velcro, and then I had completely forgot about it because we ordered it. It came a couple months later, not thinking about it. I'm like, who the fuck ordered all this Velcro? I'm like, oh my god, it's here! And I was like, these divisions over here need it. Reactor needs it. Fucking engineering needs it. So I'm gonna run it to them. They didn't need it. I wanted it because I wanted to fuck with people. So I had literally waited until everybody went to sleep. It's like 11, 12 o'clock at night. Everybody's asleep. So I go down to the supply pit. So I've got all of this Velcro. I'm Velcroing people's mouse to the desk. I'm Velcroing coffee cups. I'm Velcroing chairs. I'm Velcroing keyboards, paper cutters, just anything and everything that was not bolted to the ground. I Velcroed the fuck out of, right? And then we had these jackets. This is right after we switched to blue camouflage jackets. So we had this like Rain-X Gore-Tex or whatever it was called. There's this jacket that you could put a liner in because I was stationed in Washington State. Cold as fuck. It was raining all the time. So this is this waterproof jacket. So I did this because everybody left their jackets on the back of their chairs like most civilized people do. You leave your jacket there so when it gets chilly, you can put it on. So I did this to I don't know why I picked the left one, but I did it to everybody's left sleeve on their jackets. I Velcroed the opening where your hand goes. I Velcroed it shut. So we're getting called to go someplace, and everybody's like, all right, bring your jackets because it's gonna be cold on the weather decks. So everybody's like pulling their jackets on and then not putting it like on until they get up to the top because it's still pretty warm on the inside of the ship. It's just gonna be a little chilly on the outside, the wind spraying and all that shit. So these guys are fucking putting their jackets on and they're all trying to like punch their fucking hand out. And they're like, what the fuck is going on? And they hadn't moved around in the office yet, so they hadn't seen all the other Velcro. So me being the most junior guy at that time, obviously that was my first mistake. I pissed everybody off without realizing it, right? It's
Oh
a fun
man.
story. Everybody got that it was a joke and I was fucking around. I only got yelled at for, half hour. 45 minutes, whatever it was. But so they can't get their fucking arm out. Everybody's getting pissed off, and then they see that it's Velcro. They're like, who the fuck? I'm like, I don't know, man. I fucking had all this Velcro. It went missing. I don't know what happened. And they're like, oh, this is fucking, 'cause they thought somebody's messing with them. So we get back down to the supply pit. Guy goes to bring up his coffee mug. Coffee mug is Velcro to the thing. Guy goes to pull up the stapler. Stapler's fucking done. Guy goes to pull up the phone. The fucking phone's Velcroed. I had to take every piece of fucking Velcro off of it. Took me hours and hours to take all of it. It was
That
worth
sounds
it.
worth it though.
It was worth it.
So is
Just
it
a
like
minor
self-adhesive?
inconvenience.
It was
Yes,
just like self,
yes.
so,
It was
so
like
what,
stick. It was what is
military
it called?
strength, right? It's
Yeah.
like-
It was like those
Man.
command strips, but I got duct tape right here. So it was like the equivalent of like duct tape. It's a
Mm.
weird thing to have. Say, I got duct tape right here. Look at this.
Oh, and rope and
Yeah.
handcuffs. I see.
Yeah, don't worry about that. That comes later. That's the after hours podcast. No, but yeah, so I velcroed everything. And then what sucked is when you take it off, if it seals pretty well, it leaves like this adhesive sticky shit
Oh,
after.
sure. Yeah.
So I had to take Goo Gone or Gooby Gone,
Oh,
whatever it's called, and
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
scrape up everything. And the worst part is they had just redid our floors, and I had Velcroed everybody's wheelie chairs, only one wheel, but everybody's wheelie chairs, so you couldn't get, I tried to use the excuse you have to stow for sea, so whenever you deploy, you have to put like bands down, so because you hit waters that are really rough and shit falls
Yes,
over.
stuff's gonna
So I
move,
was,
right? Yeah.
yeah, so I was trying to say, look, I'm stowing for sea. They're like, no, asshole. Get on your hands and knees, get this Gooby Gone, and get all of this shit. It
Oh, man.
sucked. It was worth it, but it sucked, man.